At the San Francisco Patients Resource Center, there's a party going on. Here they treat people with serious illnesses. The service includes dispensing marijuana, classified as a soft drug. The people who roll up here are suffering from illnesses ranging from glaucoma to AIDS. They're breaking the law. Marijuana is legal even for medicinal use. Campaigning loudly to change the law, Dennis Peron fought to make medicinal marijuana legal in California by passing Proposition 215 in 1996.
And the question is, of course, why is this stuff being kept from sick and dying people?
But a recent Supreme Court ruling overturned Proposition 215. Peron and his colleagues, though, are confident they will win in the long run.
Kind of like angry.
Well, we finally got to the government to admit that it's a war with sick and dying people. I think the next step is rectifying the government's position. The government's admitted it's a war with sick and dying people and will throw them in jail if they use a medicine they believe is helping them. The next step is to reschedule that medicine to stop the criminalization of sick and dying people and allow doctors to prescribe it. I believe that's right around the corner, that it's an FDA administration decision. Marijuana is clearly in the wrong schedule.
Wayne Justmann is one of 3 directors at the Patients Resource Center, which is supported by a large team of volunteers. He fears that the Supreme Court decision could mean the center would be shut down.
I don't believe that any member of our staff here or anyone as patients here are going to voluntarily close our door some way down the line, if it's tomorrow or 2 weeks from tomorrow or 2 years from tomorrow. The reality still exists that cannabis is a necessary medicinal form for people here in San Francisco and the Bay Area. That's not going to change, no matter what Congress has said to this point, and no matter what the Supreme Court said last month. Cannabis is still an effective alternative for people who have serious illnesses and who have the recommendation and approval of their physician. We're going to be here. That's just the bottom line.
Brian is a veteran of the Vietnam War who suffers from severe depression and glaucoma. Like many, he uses marijuana to relieve the pain. The conventional treatment prescribed to him for glaucoma causes unpleasant side effects that are eased by smoking cannabis. Brian has to make ends meet with his war pension. A joint is more than a pleasurable puff for Brian and others like him. They're inhaling a release from pain. Brian tends his cannabis plants. They have to be grown in hidden locations. He knows that he risks being arrested. The current law on cannabis is a minefield. Proponents of 215 want it clarified in their favor. The whole idea behind the proposition is to ensure that seriously ill Californians have the right to obtain and use marijuana. Brian is one of them.
I think this is a whole lot easier to make than decent ethyl alcohol. People were brewing their own in Prohibition. We've been growing our own now for too long, and I have no choice. It's, you know, I'd be dead. If I can smoke cannabis, I can go to work. I can be a taxpayer. Without this stuff, I'll go blind and be a tax recipient.
This office block in San Francisco houses the surgery of Dr. Stephen Ellis, one of the increasing number of doctors using cannabis as a treatment. Patients suffering from AIDS to arthritis come to see Dr. Ellis for evaluation. But he's only one of a handful of doctors who is able to help patients who need it. Most physicians fear the consequences of prescribing marijuana. even though the American Board of Medicine recognizes its medical importance.
Well, unfortunately, the private physicians, primary physicians, are still essentially intimidated from writing these recommendations, in part maybe peer pressure, and I think in part because of fear of government reprisals. And so they're just deferring from it. And patients can't get the recommendations, even though they clearly qualify. It's become very, very difficult. Even many hematology-oncology patients, surprisingly, and even some AIDS patients. And so we've developed a practice model here where patients come in with their diagnosis pre-established by their regular physicians, and we go ahead and reevaluate the patient from there, and if everything fits together, and we go ahead and give them a recommendation.
At the center of the debate is the district attorney's office in downtown San Francisco. Fred Dawner and his team are working to make medicinal marijuana legal. It's already legal in 8 states across the U.S. Dawner says the Bush administration's war on drugs fuels a federal strategy with its own economic logic.
Attorney General Lundgren, Locker's predecessor.
They have to keep marijuana illegal. The prison industrial complex has to keep marijuana illegal. And the war on drugs, the prohibition of these 3 plants is the rationale for the whole police state, for the funding of it, their swollen budgets, their swollen staffing levels. It's a pretty sick situation.
Haight-Ashbury, birthplace of hippie movements and the drug culture in the 1960s. But the flip side was the true misery of the increase in drug addicts throughout the United States. Now the fight is on to rehabilitate marijuana for medical purposes.
Come on, doctors throughout the land. It's time for a Hippocratic stand. You know the benefits of this weed shouldn't be tampered by political greed.
For Brian and others, it's a medical lifeline.
In these United States. And it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Come on! Just an end to this policy. The war's raging on you and me.
And the center says, as long as people are suffering, it will be there for them.